You know Sheletta makes you laugh, but did you know Sheletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Sheletta Brundage founded Sheletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African American subject experts at ShelettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShelettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast quality commercial content. And Sheletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Sheletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShelettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast, recognized as one of the top 100 diversity and inclusion podcasts in the U.S. I'm your host, Lambert Fesher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. So, today I'd like to share with you a few thoughts about appreciating your opposers. So, in a recent podcast, I reflected on some of the contrasting opinions that have been shared regarding the case of Carmelo Anthony, a teenager in Texas that was sentenced to 35 years in prison after a fatal stabbing of another teenager at a track meet. The result caused controversy for several reasons. Some focusing on seemingly unfair jury selection processes, other focusing on the sentence that was significantly longer than a seemingly comparable case that had occurred prior, and many others thinking it had been blown out of proportion altogether. In response, I shared some considerations to help people with varying perspectives understand the perspective of others, not necessarily to find a correct perspective, but to find a healthy way to communicate about the implications of the case on future interactions among family, friends, and colleagues, as well as varying efforts to trust our legal system as a whole. To hear that complete perspective, I encourage you to go back and watch or listen to my most recent podcast message. But after that recording had been posted, I shared it on my platforms, and many people who commented on it were expressing positive things after hearing it. And in hopes of positively impacting even more relationship interactions far and wide, I shared the main components of that message with the Twin Cities Pioneer Press, as a well-respected newspaper, as an opinion piece. And while the vast majority of that feedback was positive as well, conveying that it had been a perspective that had been well received in contrast to what many had heard, not every comment expressed was appreciated. One such comment described very thoroughly the problem with sharing perspectives like mine and the consequent disappointment in the source for sharing it. And it was at this point that I saw an opportunity to respond, not just to the content of the message, but also the person, in hopes of creating a better, lasting impression than the first impression, as well as to model how to respond to similar perspectives to everyone else who would be reading that content more publicly. So here are a few main takeaways that came from my effort to appreciate my opposers. Takeaway number one, I express appreciation for the direct response. Very often people read newspaper articles or social media posts and make some sort of note to themselves in their mind and then move on. If they're really impacted by the content in some way, they share it with someone else in hopes of sparking conversation, sometimes healthy, sometimes unhealthy, all without giving the person who wrote the content the opportunity to clarify any misunderstandings, identify any inaccurate assumptions, or respond simply to a reasonable follow-up question. Hence why I appreciated the direct response, because it not only gave me the invitation to reply back directly, but also to do so in a way that confirmed that the initial feedback was positively received by me. Make no doubt, replying publicly is risky. Too often, people express feelings and then get their feedback thrown back in their face, focusing only on the things that may have been inaccurate. Or worse, judging them for having the audacity to think that their voice mattered. I had the opportunity to do the exact opposite. I was happy to reassure this person that negativity would not be returned. Their perspective was not shared in vain, that I appreciated their direct response. Not only that, but I appreciated the opportunity to have my perspective reflected back to me so that I could see how it was received by more than just my supporters, such that for those who received it well, I could be happy they were enriched. And for those who did not receive it well, I was given the opportunity to offer additional clarification in hopes of not leaving anybody behind on the healthy perspective train. Takeaway number 2. I appreciated the acknowledgement of my intent. After I shared my reply, I got another comment in return. And before further contrasting thoughts were shared, I was pleased to see that it began with a genuine acknowledgement of my genuineness and intent that was evident. That is key. Sure, I am keenly aware that there's a difference between intent and impact. And yet I'm also aware that if genuine intent is not seen or experienced, then negative impact is almost guaranteed. In contrast, when genuine intent is successfully conveyed and experienced, then that lays a foundation for more effective hearing of multiple perspectives, the experiences that contribute to them, and the hopes that drive them. While I was happy to also hear further clarification of their perspective, I too was able to resist the potential temptation to write them off also just because they disagree with me. Because I was able to hear their genuine intent as well as which motivated them to promote certain things that they deem healthy and avoid certain things that they deemed unhealthy. Which leads to takeaway number 3. I found similarities among the differences. One thing I love to do when people express contrasting views with me is to agree with them. Not as some psychological mind game, gaslighting them into confusion. No, I do my best to acknowledge the differences as well as the similarities, allowing for mutual respect and professional connection through acknowledgement of ways in which there may be agreement, such as the need for consequences to life taking actions, even if we disagree about whether those consequences are implemented equally, or shared hopes for a healthy and fair legal system, even if we disagree about how close we are to that ideal today or what it takes to get there. I firmly believe that it is difficult to fight with someone who is agreeing with you. Again, not disarming so that you can attack, but disarming so that no one has to be armed in that interaction for an attack or attacking first in anticipation of defense. But instead, both sides can feel genuinely heard and then be prepared to work together to identify solutions for change that benefit people on multiple sides of any argument rather than just one. With that all being said, my hope for you is that you will be encouraged not only by the content that I share, but also the way in which I share it. Not because I'm special in the way that no one else can accomplish. No, but because I show a way that can be modeled, so practically applicable that everyone can customize it to their own relationship interaction needs, their own language, their own ways of being, so that we all can pleasantly surprise our opposers in hopes of reducing how much you and they have to be on your guard moving forward in the future as well. And with that, I'll say thanks again for listening to today's Diversity Dude podcast. If you found it positive and insightful, then be sure to like and subscribe so that I'll know which topics you'd like me to share more on in the future, and share with a friend so that they can be encouraged as well. To find out how you can cultivate a culturally safe work environment for you and your team, I encourage you to visit lambertsfisher.com/playbook for a free guide. You can also learn more in my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, which offers unique ways to positively address the often divisive topic of diversity, equipping helping professionals like you in your efforts to meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it's been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself. And if you find it encouraging, share it with a friend so that they can be encouraged as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible at work, at home, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShelettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
Welcome to Old National Bank.
I understand you're all about protection.
Well, we protect you in all kinds of ways, with advanced fraud monitoring and secure digital banking to protect you today, and with dedicated personal bankers to protect your tomorrow.
I'm impressed.
Protection for today and tomorrow.
Could I just...
Oh, go for it.
Old National Bank. Just another reason to get old.
Where'd you get this?
It came with my couch.
Were you counting on a personal care assistant or autism provider who is no longer able to provide services for your child this summer? Don't panic. The Minnesota Department of Human Services just finished an urgent statewide effort to make sure providers of high-risk Medicaid services fully comply with state requirements to provide quality care. The department recently completed a top-to-bottom compliance review of almost 5,600 providers of high-risk services, including personal care assistance and autism programs. If your child's provider was disenrolled, it is time to be proactive. Let me ask you a question. Does your child have a case manager? They usually can help you find a new provider. If your child does not have one, the department will be reaching out to you directly to make sure you know how to find someone new. Understand what's happening and how to get help at mn.gov/DHS/find-care.